What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to have I think, honestly, a pretty different kind of video, okay? I want to talk about pretty much where we're at with Avengers from the beginning, from even the game's announcement, through the beta, through the multiple betas, through the game's release, and up till right now. I get it. I've been making actually quite a few videos on this game, and I know a lot of them are not the nicest to it. This will probably be the last one for this game for quite a while until, say, we get news on when the next gen version comes out, until we get news on Kate Bishop, and then I'll obviously be covering the news for that, and I'll be covering Kate Bishop when she actually releases. But this is just something that's gotten to me, and I guess I should make it clear, it's not something that keeps me awake at night. It's not something where I'm like pacing back and forth, like scratching my head, being like, I literally can't believe they've done this. No, I mean, but this is still something that you really do look at as a case study of, like, this is not how you do it. I'm not, I would say, going to go after the core principle of this game. I don't actually think that, I don't think that's, I would say it's not fair. Look, the game is what it is. If they wanted to do the looter, they wanted to do that this game is going to be a live service game, live service in the way that they're doing it, where, again, it's going to survive long term. We're going to constantly add to it. We're going to have free DLC. And again, some of that stuff is really, really good. Some of that stuff you may not agree with. Some of the stuff you know, it honestly depends on the person. But in terms of the gameplay, in terms of what the game actually is, I mean, of course, they could have done different things. And of course, we could, I think, probably all agree that they could have done better. I'm not saying making like a Batman Arkham kind of clone for an Avengers game would have been the right move, but just my opinion, and again, I think some people share this and some people don't, and it's totally okay, by the way, no matter where you think on it. This is, again, I've played this game for a very long time. I've talked about this game even longer, okay? I mean, I have been in support of this game for a long time. No matter where you stand, though, I do think, in my opinion, they could have done different stuff in terms of the core base game, and they could have made this game much, much better. Do I have any specific examples? I do. I'm not going to get into it right now, but I'm sure we could all think of things that could have made this game better. The case study of how not to do it is the game, I think, factually should not have come out when it did. You have the betas, right? So if you had it for PS4, you got to play it like 4 weeks early or 3 weeks early, and then the week after that, they did an open beta. They did it for Xbox and PC if they pre-ordered it. I mean, we all remember that, right? Even back then, I mean, you could tell there were a lot of issues. You could tell I don't think that the basic core of the game was clicking with the mass majority of people. Now, what I should also say is the game sold #1 on NPD in September, so it's not like this game didn't sell. People bought it. Now, does it look worse that the game was the highest selling game of September, and now we hear the stories that it's under 1,000 players, currently on PC, and it's probably very low across the board? Yeah, that makes it look very bad because it had such a big just influx of people at launch, which is good. That's a good thing. There's no denying it. But then they lost, honestly, almost every, I don't even, what percentage do you want to say? They lost so many people. I would say probably 90 to 95% easily of the people that played it have probably now left. And that is a disaster. And again, case study of why you don't do that. So while I won't pick on the gameplay or the loop and stuff like that, what I will pick on is their live service or the supporting the game over time. Even their end game content. We can criticize their end game content to the moon and back because that is, I think, fundamentally the worst part. The story, does it have issues? Yeah, but overall, I think it's got a lot of heart. I think that's fair to say. When you beat this game, what is there to do? You end up doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. The gameplay loop, I think, is solid enough to warrant you doing that, by the way. I also think each character is pretty darn unique, and none of them feel the same. And so you do feel, I think, a sense of, I think you feel a sense of accomplishment as you're leveling them up, but you also feel that each of them truly are their own person, and you can have, I wouldn't say you have a completely different experience with them because you were literally doing the exact same thing no matter what, but how you're doing it, your fighting style is completely different, based off of each person, which is good. The issue, again, is there's just nothing to do. Me, myself, personally, I've talked about it before. My goal was to get Iron Man, my main character, to 150, okay? It took me around 3.5 weeks. I played it pretty much every single night. I would say I put around 60 to 70 hours into this game. I think that's probably around my clock time. If they gave it to me, I would tell it to you exactly, but I would say 60, 70, maybe even more if you count even the beta, right? Because I played the beta actually for quite a while. I put a lot of hours into this game. game. Now, if people put more, yeah, and I'm not I'm not saying anything against them, but I'm telling you how much I've played. And I can tell you, once you get high enough and you're really grinding for that last, couple levels, once you're trying to, upgrade your weapons, once you're trying to boost them, right, to get to the final levels, I mean, it becomes so tedious, and you can only fight Abomination, Taskmaster, and the 2 robots. Those are your 4 villain sectors, and to repeat them and do them every single day, and to do the war zones, and again, I've talked about it before, the war zones and drop zones and threat sectors, they're just repeats of the single player. You could argue the single player is just repeats of the multiplayer. The game has no real end game. The game has no real sense of you're constantly working to accomplish something. Yes, you're working to accomplish to get to 150, but let me tell you, once you do that, in my mind, there is zero reason to continue playing. Yes, you could do it for another character, but why in God's name would you do that? Because you just did. Then you have really the post-game stuff, which is, again, the case study of why you don't do it. The game was a broken mess for many, many weeks. In fact, my friend Arthur, who I've played, we've mained together. He mained Hulk, I mained Iron Man. His single-player campaign has been broken for over 3 weeks now, and no patch that they've done has fixed it. It's during the when Iron Man is going out into space, the game literally broke itself, and he cannot, under any circumstance, he's reinstalled it, uninstalled it, all that stuff. He cannot play it. Okay, so, and that's just one, by the way, that's literally one of thousands of issues with the game, and that's not an exaggeration. That is them formally saying in patch 1, when they had that first really big update, they fixed more than 1,000 issues, and they've since then they've had more patches that have fixed hundreds and hundreds of issues. The game factually has had probably 2,000 to 4,000 issues with the game. No matter, you can disagree, you'd be wrong because those are just flat out stats. The game has problems. And yes, you can't catch all of them before the game comes out. I get that. And again, as I've said in past videos, you've seen sometimes developers of other games jump in and say, well, you can't always catch everything. Well, yeah, but I don't know any other game that has a patch for 1,000 fixes. I mean, how many other games out there? It's probably a minority of games, right, that actually has to do that. Those are normally the signs of just either the worst games or the worst developed games, or like something was happening really bad behind the scenes. And the issue that was happening behind the scenes is this game was designed to be a long-term game without actually a plan to do that. Now, yes, they have the DLC with, Kate Bishop, Hawkeye, Spider-Man eventually, all of these characters. And as I've said, as we've gotten further, I really don't think we're going to get all those characters. Remember, there were 16 leaked characters for this game. It's very much, in my opinion, going to be a Star Wars Battlefront 2 situation where maybe we get half of them, but the other half, they were there because they could have done them, but they're just flat out not, because they're just not going to do it because the game is not popular enough. I mean, right now, you're going to put Spider-Man out. You're going to put Spider-Man out when there's like 200 people playing the game. I mean, you will. You probably have a deal with Sony that's probably paying you a lot of money to do that, so you're going to do it, but Sony probably feels pretty stupid right now saying, man, we spent millions of dollars to get them to do Spider-Man, and I mean, just nobody's even playing the game anymore. It wasn't even worth our time. We should have just spent that money with another exclusive deal somewhere else, okay? So again, not the way you handle it. Now, delays because of the thing that went around the world, that's different. I mean, I sympathize for them. I understand that. We saw that a few days ago, right, how Kate Bishop, how the next-gen versions of the game have been delayed. I mean, again, though, you should have just delayed the game to start with. It didn't have enough content. I think statistically, people probably did all there was to do in that game. And not literally, not exactly everything, but in terms of like each individual's mind, I bet you everybody reached that point where they, in their head, it clicked and they said, okay, I've done what I've wanted to do with this game. I bet you that's happened with around 90 to 95% of people within the first 3 to 4 weeks that this game has been out. And that's fine if you have new stuff that comes out week 1, week 2, week 3, and it very much changes up the game. It adds all of this new stuff. But what happened? Well, they didn't add pretty much anything for several weeks, for like 2-3 weeks. Then they added stuff, and when that happened, it's still just, I mean, they're still just adding just war zones or threat sectors or whatever, or different hives, but they're the same exact thing. Someone like me, I'm not going to jump back in. And I think a lot of people are like me in this way, that they're not going to jump back in either. It's a disaster. And there's really no long-term, I would say there's really no long-term plan to get themselves out of it. You can keep adding war zones every single day. If you had a war zone every single day, I still don't think that would get people back, because at the end of the day, you're still doing the exact same thing. You're probably just recycling, by the way, areas you've already been in, or they're at least close looking. You got to have brand new content, and the biggest way, and I've always said this in a positive for Avengers, the thing they have going for them the most is the potential of the characters. They have so many more characters they could add, and again, the characters are the best part of this game. The acting, really, really good. How they play, really good. Now, some may not be as fun to play as others, but they're each very unique. If they could do a new character every month and a half, every 2 months, and they can be just as fleshed out as what we already have, that is their ticket. That's their key. But what they've done is they haven't given you anything to do with those characters. There's nothing to do with Kate Bishop. How many missions are these characters even have? Are they going to have 1 hour worth of a mission? Is that enough? I personally don't think so. I do think that's what will happen, though. I think we'll have 1 to 2 missions for each of these DLC characters. Then we'll have maybe, a couple new areas or whatever to do different war zones and drop zones and stuff. But then you're just still doing the exact same thing you've done for, at that point, however long it had been, right? If you have been doing it for a month, 2 months, 3 months, you're still going to go back and do the exact same stuff again, but now you're doing it with a different character. Maybe the loop there is you want to get them to a level 150, but I don't want to go through that grind again. I don't want to go through that boring, repetitive grind with Kate Bishop, then with Hawkeye, then with War Machine, then with Captain Marvel, then with Black Panther. I don't want to do it every single time. Maybe I'll pick, maybe Spider-Man I'll get to 150. I don't know. But will it be fun enough? Because while he may be fun to play, is there anything to actually do in this game? It's just, this is not how you do it. The end game content was not good enough. The DLC idea or promise was good, but they've completely faltered on that. Adding the end game stuff as we go. It's just not been diverse enough. It's not been new enough to get people in. The patches, it's laughable. It's laughable when you have a patch that goes up that you kind of gloat on social media and say, patches up, it fixes over 1,000 issues. Well, you expect us to give you a round of applause? You fixed 1,000 issues. Good for you, but 1,000 issues. You launched the game with 1,000 issues that you have caught within 3 weeks. How is that good at all? That looks awful on you. A lot of people should probably be fired for something like that. And maybe not fired, but you know what would have been helpful? Delay the game. Delay the game till November. You could have Kate Bishop probably launch with it, so you have an extra DLC character. That's how you do it. And you have more endgame content already planned. It's just not how you do it. The way they've handled it has not been the way you do a game. It's in deep trouble. I don't know if it ever gets out of this situation. I think it's just a situation where we let it die, we come back, which is what I'm doing. And I think a lot of people are kind of on board with that. You put it on your shelf if you have it physical. If you have it digital, you probably delete the game and you reinstall it when big things come out. You just forget about the game's existence. When DLC characters or whatever comes out that most speaks to you, you play it. You'll probably play it for 2 to 4 days. You'll delete it again, or you'll put the disc away again. You'll pull it out a couple months later, and you'll go from there. Maybe it eventually transforms itself into a really good game. I just don't. The thing is, I have seen people say that, will this game be monumentally better a year later? I don't actually think it will, because it seems, for all that we know, that the studio's kind of moving on. Remember, we saw that the studio's already talking and already working on their next game. So is it a skeleton crew that's working on the rest of Marvel's Avengers? I don't think they are giving them the big, and again, maybe that's not even Crystal Dynamics' fault. Maybe that's Square Enix. They probably aren't even giving them that big of that many resources to continue this game. So the people that say, well, maybe in a year, well, yeah, but if they have a ghost crew making what's left of this game, the most you're going to get is the characters, when they come out, or the drop zones or the war zones. That's it. They're not going to fundamentally be able to change this game unless you do like an Anthem 2.0 thing where they're, very dedicated to, okay, we're going to rework this thing from scratch. That's not going to happen here. I just flat out think that's not going to happen here, and then the game will not improve, actually. So, guys, let me know. Let me know in the comments below. Again, this will probably be it. I know a lot of people maybe are sick and tired of me complaining about this game, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed to this YouTube channel. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up, and thank you all so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. New videos every single day on this channel, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow.